What's up, you guys? Hey, it's Jason with 615 Fishing, and I have kind of a storytelling episode for you. Today, I'm going to go over a little bit about what it's like to take part in a Major League Fishing BFL tournament. So as a co-angler, because I'm a co-angler, I don't own a boat yet. I'd like to get one eventually, but I'll get me one eventually. But anyway, so I highly encourage people to try a tournament. If you've never gone to a Pro-Am tournament, I really think it's a good time. Even as a co-angler, you should try it. I really believe that. If you're a good fisherman, like I got a buddy named Israel, really good fisherman, never done a tournament, but I think that someone who's a good fisherman, whether you're in a creek, a lake, a pond, a river, wherever you are, if you're a good fisherman, I think that you would do well in a co-angler tournament. Now, just because you're a good fisherman doesn't mean that you're going to slay in a tournament like this. So let me give you a little bit about how the tournament progresses. First of all, you got to be a member of the Major League Fishing. So you got to sign up. You got to get yourself signed up on the website and get yourself a membership. You'll have a membership card. You'll have a membership number that will allow you to register for tournaments. So once you go on the site, you can search your area. If it's super amateur, like what I'm talking about, the BFL leagues, you can search through, find one in your area. So it should only be like within a 2-hour drive of your area, basically, that would be your division. So for me, I'm in Middle Tennessee. Mine is Music City. So you can actually search the BFLs, look up Music City, sign up and register, pay your fee, whatnot. Okay, that puts you in. Now, as a co-angler, you want to register early as you can. As soon as you know that the tournament is open for registration, you should register because whether or not you spend money on a hotel or you don't, the earlier you do it, the earlier you know you need to be on a specific lake, the better, because if you've got to get a hotel room or Airbnb, or you got to camp out, some people sleep in their trucks. You need to know that in advance, and you need to make sure you get a boat. So as a co-angler, you're not really guaranteed to be on a boat, especially if you register late. Now, I've registered late before, and they're like, I don't know if we're going to have enough boats for you. So you want to register early so you're guaranteed to be on a boat. If you register late, they might not have enough boaters. Lots of times they're scrambling. You know, the tournament directors do a lot of work prior to a tournament to make sure they've got enough boaters that are going to be there and to match them up with co-anglers. So that's a good thing. They do a lot of work. But once you registered, and let's say you've got yourself a boat, there's all kinds of rules with the BFL and Major League Fishing that you'll need to abide by. I'm not going to go into a lot of that, but basically, if you've watched a Major League Fishing tournament ever, it's those rules for the most part. I mean, you're not catching fish live and releasing them, but other than that, everything's pretty much the same. You've got legal limits and how many fish you can keep, 5, that kind of thing. But as a co-angler, you get registered. What happens is you'll have a safety meeting the night before the tournament. And when you have the safety meeting, they go through all the basic safety, wearing your life jackets when the motor's running. That's the biggest one, really. Having your license, being cool to your boater. So what happens after the safety meeting is that they do like an electronic kind of draw. So they'll do the draw, and you will be assigned, a boater will be assigned to you, and you will be assigned to a boater. What happens is you get a text message after the safety meeting, and it'll say, okay, your boat number will say 105, right? Your boat number 105, your boater is this person, this is their cell phone number. Done, that's your draw, right? So once you get your draw, you have their phone number, you call them. As a co-angler, you should call them. But lots of times the boaters, man, they're on top of things. Depending on who they are, boaters are on top of things. They're going to call you immediately. So lots of times, as soon as the draw goes out, the phone rings. But if it doesn't, you need to call the boater. It's kind of a respect thing. So you call the boater, You discuss, hey, did the boater pre-fish? Did the boater not pre-fish? Is he familiar with that lake? Is it his home lake? It's a huge difference if it's the boater's home lake. But you'll have a chat. You'll talk about where you're going to meet in the morning. You're talking about what you're going to bring. Are you bringing a big cooler, a huge tackle box, are all your rods 8 feet long? How big is the boat? What color's the boat? What color's the truck? Because you're going to want to meet them at some point. And when it's before light, lots of times you can't see the truck. So you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do to meet with your boater. Now, some boaters will want you to put the boat in the water, which means I'm driving the truck, backing the boat up, the boater's in the boat, and they're going to pull it off of the trailer. I take the truck and the trailer and go park it. I bring the keys back to the boater, what I personally do is immediately when I get on the boat, I hand the keys to the boater immediately. I don't want to be responsible for those keys on the boat. That's a mouthful. That's a lot of stuff. But some boaters don't. Some boaters are like, yo, bro, you're not touching my truck. You're not touching my boat. Some of them are like that. It's who you get. Some guys are super, laid back, whatever, drive my truck, drive my boat, don't care. And some guys are like, you're not touching anything. Usually those guys have had a bad experience in a tournament. They've had a co-angler that was just like a complete train wreck. And hopefully I'm never going to be that guy, but that's usually why a boater would have a bad attitude about co-anglers, is because they've had a bad experience and they don't want another one. And they're not going to allow there to be another one, which I would totally get. As a boater, you're paying more for your entry fee than a co-angler is. A co-angler is basically, and I've heard boaters say this, a co-angler is basically getting a very cheap guide on the lake. So if you go and pay a guide, you're paying $350 or something like that. To enter a tournament nowadays is between $100 and $150. So you get to go out and go a long day's fishing. It's an 8-hour tournament. You're getting a long day's fishing for $150, which leads to another etiquette piece that usually when I'm done with a tournament, especially if the boater is going from spot to spot to spot, or if he's going from the dam all the way up the river, whatever, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a tip at the end. So if you're a co-angler and you're not tipping your boater, fix it, especially if they're burning gas. Now, if they've got, an awesome engine that burns no gas and they never leave a, 250-yard area, that's up to you. I'm usually going to tip, and I'm usually in the $30 range because gas is not cheap. So that's one thing. So you get your boater, you meet him at the ramp, you got the boat in the water, you park the truck, you're all set. Then you line up. Every boat is out in the area of launch, sitting and waiting. So there's a launch time, and it's a scheduled launch time. So there will be a series of boats. So if let's just say there's 200 boats, they're going to have 50 boats, another 50 boats, another 50 boats, another 50 boats. And they're going one by one by one, but they call them flights. So if you're in the first flight, you're like the 1st through 50th boat. Second flight, 51st through 100th, and so on. So everybody's sitting there waiting. What happens then is they do a national anthem, which is super patriotic. Almost every boater I've ever met, every angler I've ever met is super patriotic. So we're going to do the national anthem. We're going to have a prayer. And then we're going to head towards launch. So everybody starts kind of lining their boats up like, hey, I'm 50, I'm 51, I'm going to get behind you, and everybody just starts chatting and figuring out which way their boat's going to go. So you line up, and then they say, okay, it's time for launch. And then they say, boater number 1, have a good day, right? Every boat also gets like I think it's a tracker. I'm not really positive what it is because I've never paid super close attention, but every boat gets a little tracker that they just usually just put in the glove box while we're fishing all day. And at the end of the day, you turn it in. But that's minuscule. Before you launch, though, every boat has to go through a check. So they're checking the live wells. They're making sure you don't already have fish in there, which everyone hates a cheater. They're checking your live wells. They're making sure they work. They're making sure you have your flotation devices, and that you have the right angler, then the right co-angler in the right number boat. So once you do that, they call your number and you blast off. And at that point, you're fishing. You know, 9 times out of 10, your boater is in complete control. I never say anything to my boater until we start having problems. So if my boater is a pro, you're going to be able to tell if your boater is a pro. 9 times out of 10, their boat is super freaking expensive. It's like $100,000+ boat. They've got sponsors. There's stickers everywhere. They have a huge truck that's probably half paid for by their sponsor. So if you have a pro, you're going to know. And lots of times they pre-fished. They're going to know where they're going to want to go. They're going to know somewhat what the fish are doing. No one ever really knows what the fish are doing, but they're going to know something. So they're going to have spots picked out where they want to hit first. 9 times out of 10, I just shut up and hold on. Some of these boats can go 70 miles an hour on the water. And buddy, let me tell you, 70 miles an hour on the water is freaking dangerous. So you better have your flotation device on and hold on for dear life. But you'll get to your spots, you'll fish, and everything's lighthearted from that point, depending on the type of boater you have. You know, you're talking about stuff, you're cracking jokes, you're talking about baits, you're talking about what you're throwing, and come on, fish, eat. You know, there's a lot of banter with some boaters, and some boaters are completely silent. So you're out fishing, you're catching or you're not catching. You catch dates, you throw them back. You catch huge ones, it's like, woo, grab the net. A boater is always going to be nervous about a co-angler netting their fish. Always. So if you're not a quote unquote pro at netting your boater's fish, get to be a pro immediately. If you knock a fish off of a boater's line, they're going to hate you for life. With some boaters in some contests, fish, a couple of ounces can make the difference in a huge check for a boater. The checks are bigger for the boaters than they are for the co-anglers. That's just the way it is. You're paying a smaller entry fee. A boater's paying a larger entry fee. They've got a boat. They've got a huge truck. You know, all of these investments. And the guys that are pros, they're looking to get into the tournaments at the end of the season because they've qualified. So learn how to net a fish. That's a huge one. When you're on the boat, make sure you have kind of a small cooler somewhere, that's one that you can put away, because lots of times the boaters will have an extra compartment so you can put your cooler, your jacket, whatever in there. I wouldn't bring more than 5 rods. If you're a co-angler and you feel like you need more than 5 rods, I think you have a problem. That's me personally. I think you have a problem if you need more than 5 rods. If you have a humongous tackle box, and I've seen this where the tackle box takes up almost the entire rear deck of say a 18-foot boat. That's ridiculous. As a co-angler, you don't need that either. Almost every boater I've ever fished with said you can use anything I have 9 times out of 10, but that doesn't mean you expect it, right? You come prepared with what you think you're going to do and the baits you think you're going to throw. If your boater says, or if you're going, man, I wish I had something in green pumpkin, which if you don't, you're crazy. I wish I had something in green pumpkin. Your boater's going to go, oh, I've got one here, use these. 9 times out of 10. Not always, but 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, here, use mine, right? So you don't have to take the entire kitchen sink with you when you go fish as a co-angler. You want to keep things kind of small. Nowadays, I'm taking a backpack style tackle box, which is about the right size. You can either put it in the floorboard in front of your feet in the boat, or you can put it on the back deck and like strap it to the seat or whatever. Boaters are going to ask you if you want a seat. Some boaters will be like, hey, do you want me to put the seat up? 9 times out of 10, I say no. I like to stand the entire day. I'm standing for 8 hours. So you're fishing, you're catching fish, you're fishing, catching fish. Okay, now we're getting into the actual competitive part of it. And I'm going to talk about like the relationship between how a boater casts and how a co-angler casts. The co-angler is restricted in some degrees. If you have a boater that is paralleling the bank, which many boaters are going to do, if they're paralleling the bank and they're casting directly to the bank 90 degrees, I call that cutting me off. As a co-angler, you're totally cutting me off. The best way for both co-anglers and boaters to cast will be at 45 degrees off the bow. So if the boater is casting 45 degrees or even less, like way, way forward, which is what they should be doing, even when they're paralleling a bank, that gives the co-angler room as well. So let's see if I can get my camera set up here. So boater's way up on the front of the deck, he casts. Co-angler's way in the back, he casts. You can both cast at 45 degree angles with no problems. As soon as the boater turns, right, if he's casting 90 degrees, you can't cast in front of the boat anymore. Once you can't cast in front of the boat, you're limited to really scraps, nothing. So as a co-angler, as soon as you notice that a boater is immediately cutting 90 degrees, I would ask them, hey, can we do 45 degree angles? Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are very, very competitive, which that's normal, right? But when a boater is really concerned about fish, even though you are not competing with your boater, when you're in the boat like that, you're not competing with your boater. You're competing with other co-anglers on other boats. But lots of times, a boater will think if you catch a fish, you've just caught his fish, which is not the case. It's just not. I know boaters that are super excited when I catch a fish. I know boaters that get pissed off when I catch a fish. So, do co-anglers outfish their boaters sometimes? Yes, it happens. I've done it. I've also done horrible, and my boater's done fantastic, and he's wondering why I can't catch a fish. I must really suck, right? It can go either way. Tournaments are crazy like that. But if you can both cast at a 45 degree angle, it makes everybody happy. You're casting in front of the boat. There's a higher chance of actually catching fish than if you were both casting parallel. It's just scraps. I mean, making noise on a boat is real. If you make noise, you do spook fish, and they do move around. And if they see your bait after they've been spooked, you're done. You're toast. Okay, that's a big speech, but it makes a lot of sense. It makes both people happy too, because you want the boater to catch fish, you want the co-angler to catch fish, you want them to be happy. And actually, when you get to the end of a tournament, if you've had a problem with a boater, you can actually go to the tournament administration and say, "Hey, look, I had an issue the whole time. My boater was being an a-hole or whatnot," and they can do the same for you. My co-angler knocked my fish off, and it seemed like he did it on purpose, right? Maybe not the case, but all of these little intricacies aside, you're just out there, a couple guys fishing, having a good time. You're in the weather. It can be stormy. It can be, hot as Hades. It can be there. It's always an adventure. There have been times when I've seen foxes, deer swimming across a daggum lake, snakes, beavers, raccoons, all kinds of wildlife. So fishing is always fun. Now, we're getting to the part where I talk about the tale of two different tournaments. So I fished a tournament with a pro, and we were on Percy Priest Lake, and I caught a real nice largemouth. Turned out it was right at 3 pounds. And it's a really nice fish. Took that largemouth in. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, I broke my rod on this. It was like a G-Shock or something like that. But I broke my rod, and I ended up pulling this fish in, hand lining, got the fish in. It's 3-pounder. Woo! For a co-angler, that's a big deal. Can a co-angler win a tournament with one fish? Yes. But it depends on if everybody else is catching fish as well. If it's a day where nobody's catching fish and you catch a 3-pounder, it's a big deal. And that's what happened on this day. I caught a 3-pounder and nobody was catching fish that day. Boaters, co-anglers alike, nobody was catching fish. So when we went up to the stage to weigh in the fish at the end of the day, I'm thinking, I got one fish, points, whatever. End of the season, maybe I'll get into a tournament. But I packed up that day. I weighed in. It was a pretty fish, you know. I did my weigh in. I packed up and I headed home. And I get a call. I'm like halfway home. I get a call. Hey, dude, I think you're going to get a check. And dadgummit, I did. I got a check for 1 3-pound fish. So as a co-angler, yes, you can get a check for 1 fish. And I've always said to other co-anglers, hey, if you get 1 fish per tournament, you're probably in the money at the end of the season. I'm not kidding you. Because consistency is virtually impossible in this sport. Now, we're going to jump ahead to the next month. I fished another tournament, and I caught another 3-pound fish. But that day, everybody was catching fish. I mean, it was a beauty. It was a smallmouth. It was gorgeous. Oh, the smallmouth was the one I broke the rod on. Yes, the smallmouth I broke the rod. The largemouth I didn't break the rod. But in that tournament, I caught a nice 3-pound smallmouth over 18 inches. I mean, it was like, woo! And I'm thinking, is this one going to get me a check like the other one did? Well, on this day, no, it did not. Everybody was catching fish. They were coming in with 5 fish bags back to back to back to back to back. And, you know, if you've got a 5 fish bag and you don't have 12 pounds, that's weird with 14-inch largemouth and 18-inch smallmouth in those bags. So yes, as a co-angler, you can do well with 1 fish. It can happen if nobody else is catching fish. If you catch a real nice fish on a day when everybody's catching fish, it's not going to make a hill of beans. It'll give you some points, but that's pretty much how it's going to go. So all tournaments are going to be the same. If everybody's catching fish and you catch fish too, great. You're going to get some points. You may not be in the money, but there's days when nobody's catching fish. If you catch a fish on that day, then there's a chance you can get a check and you can have a good tournament and have a good time. Now, I've known people that were wonderful fishermen and they go and they fish a pro-am tournament like the BFL and they have a horrible time. They get a sunburn. They don't catch a cold out there. It can be miserable. It can also be so much fun. Like I've been with boaters where we're just catching fish all day long and it's just a matter of which one you decide to keep. You're just culling all day long. And then there's days when like I said, you can't catch it cold. I mean, it's a struggle. So it all depends, and it teaches you how to change your fishing game. It teaches you how to adjust for weather, for depth, for the type of structure you're fishing. It teaches you so many things when you get into a tournament and it becomes competitive. So if you're a great fisherman on the bank or you're a great fisherman in a kayak, great. Now I'll go do a pro-am tournament. I want to see that. I think you can do it. I think you're going to have fun doing it. I think you can get a check doing it that'll at least pay for your entry fee, right? So get out there if you have a chance. Get in a pro-am tournament. If nothing else, go to club tournaments. Lots of places at your local lakes will have small clubs that will have tournaments. It can be partner tournaments where both the people in the boat are fishing on the same team. It can be draw tournaments. You know, it just depends. Find you a club if you want to start that way. But the BFL is a fun way to do it. There's plenty of rules to protect you. There's a tournament director. They're serious about their scales. They're serious about cheating. And they're serious about returning the fish, because when you come in and you weigh the fish, immediately they go back in the water. So conservation is always key as bass fishermen, and keeping the lake clean as well. So if you get the chance to fish a pro-am tournament, please do it. I think you'll have a good time. Regardless if you get a sunburn or not, wear sunscreen, or at least a hat and long sleeves and whatnot. You know, I know people are talking about sunscreen nowadays, but that's my spiel. I know that's a lot. I know I've just been running off at the mouth, but I think that's all good information that they're not going to necessarily outright tell you right when you register for a tournament. They're not just going to tell you all that information. I think that's information that you learn as you go. And hopefully I'm helping some folks to not only get into a tournament, but understand what's headed their way. What's going to happen? What are the things that they're going to experience? I hope this helps you. If it does, man, get a like and a subscribe. There's going to be more fishing content here. And I hope you get out there and fish, whether you're in a tournament or not. Keep your line wet, catch some big ones, and pass it on, man. Get other people into fishing. We'll catch you next time on 615 Fishing.